Hi there. So, you're curious about deschooling and you want to know whether deschooling is something that you need to do. If you've spent any time in a school, if you are looking at alternative educations for your children, if you are looking at homeschooling, if you are already homeschooling and it's not going as you wish, maybe there's a lot of big personalities in your home, or there's a battle of the wills going on. Or maybe that's it, homeschooling, this is the last resort, it's been too hard and you're thinking of sending them back into the school system. So then, yes, you do need to deschool. So what is deschooling? Deschooling is a period of time that most people will go through naturally. Once they've left the school system, whether that's university or TAFE or further education or high school, they will naturally go through a process of understanding that learning doesn't always just take place in school, because you go through life and you learn from experience and you're just through living. But what often happens then is once you become a parent or a carer for a child, you sort of regress back into the knowledge that, they must go to school because that is the only way to learn. That's not the case. Once you've deschooled or you've deinstitutionalized your mind or decolonized your mind, you realize that learning can actually happen in many different ways at many different times of the day, not just between 9 and 3:30. So deschooling is a process we'll go through to sort of release ourselves from the paradigm that school's the only way to learn and it is done in a really structured way. That's not the case. It is one way that you can learn. It's not always the most effective, and it's definitely not great for some personality types. So once you've got children in your care, you become, you sort of start looking for your educational choices of that child. And there is little to no information given to you freely that is around homeschooling or alternative education. It is all about, preschool, kinder, and then school, and meeting certain benchmarks and certain levels and at a certain age. What I'd like to ask you is, do you only start learning once you go to school? And then do you stop learning once you leave school? Of course not. You're learning from birth, and you continue learning all of your life. So, do you think deschooling is something you need to do? Well, yes. If you are definitely looking at any alternatives, or you are having trouble with your homeschool, then yes, you need to deschool. And what I would then say is, if you find that your school at home now, like your homeschool is not joyful, it's not free-flowing, there's a battle, like there's tears, that you are trying to get them to do work, your children get to do work, and then just a battle, they just don't want to do it, then you must deschool your mind. You must understand that it doesn't make sense to the kids that you've now turned into their teacher, because you're actually not their teacher. So by going through a deschooling process for yourself, you will then be able to guide them through a deschooling process if they require it. So think about this. If you're looking at homeschooling from the beginning and they've never been into school, why would you now change from their loving, caring parent to a teacher that now makes them do stuff that's not fun or doesn't necessarily make sense to them? So just think about that. Just because they've turned 4 or 5 or 6 doesn't mean they're now ready or want to work with paper and do book work, and the learning doesn't seem to make much sense. Okay. Likewise, you may have pulled your children from school because school has not served them at all. And what you got to understand is you can't replicate school. You don't have the finances. You don't have to deal with 30 children in a classroom, and you don't just teach one subject. You're not a school. So you need to release yourself from the mindset that school is the only way to learn. This is why it's called deschooling. It is not anti-school in any way, shape or form. Okay? And it is not just about going into the natural learning or unschooling route. There is many different ways to homeschool, and that'll be your choice after you've deschooled. After your children have deschooled and you've guided them to that deschooling process, and then you'll be able to respond to their way of learning and their strengths, so you have a confident and free-flowing homeschool. Imagine being able to enjoy, you're out and about doing what you want to do, and and trust the kids are constantly learning, and that the project that they're doing and undertaking is because they've chosen that, and it's fascinating, and they're willing to share the knowledge because it's wonderful to learn. And the big bonus is you get to see the joy in the learning. But you might not be getting that now if you're trying to force them to learn things. You need to deschool. So, question is, do you need to deschool? Well, of course. If any of that has made sense to you, and if you want to have that confident, free-flowing way of being where there's joy and you're not a commanding dictator in your own home, well, then the deschooling course is definitely for you. So in this introductory course, it will give you some questions to think about around how you want to go forward, and whether you truly do need to deschool, and whether homeschooling or alternative education is for you. So this will give you the basics, and then it will actually give you confidence whether you want to then take that next leap into that big personal development of the deep dive that the advanced deschooling course offers. So thank you and welcome.